Yes, very good day for all. This is Rajesh Devarai, lecturer in botany from Government Degree College, Bichkunda, Kamareti District, Telangana State. This video lectures produced from Department of Botany, Government Degree College, Bichkunda, due to COVID-19. This topic belongs to BSc Botany. BSc Botany. The topic is biodiversity. In this In this topic, we have discussed about what is biodiversity, how it is playing an important role in entire world. So, dear followers, the biodiversity is one of the most important phenomena in nature. In ecological factor, in entire atmosphere or biosphere, how it is played, what is the richness of species, how it is act as a very much important in species diversity. Coming to the plant aspect, the biodiversity is the most important phenomenon, most important phenomenon, which is which is play an important role in the species diversity. Dear friends, the biodiversity it is a most important factor in entire nature. How it is becoming important, how it is due to significant role plays in the entire nature. So, dear friends, the biodiversity, how it is occurred in nature, how it is play an important role in nature. So, we'll discuss. So, coming to the introduction part, the concepts. Variation is the new. Variation is the law of nature. Variation is the law of nature. It occurs everywhere and every moment. The variation takes place at micro levels, at short space, and small time period. But these become appropriate only over a large space and time gap. Simply stated, biodiversity is the variety of life under its numerous processes on Earth. The variation observed in all life forms like plants, animals living in different habitat, geographic areas and environment is biodiversity. The term biodiversity was proposed by Norse and McMahons in 1980. They coined this, this term to include those with genetic diversity and ecological diversity. W.G. Rosen in 1985 used the term to include all variations at all levels as a biodiversity. Burning in 1983 is so of the opinion that the variations and the numbers of plant species will increase. If more than one environmental factor influence the plant growth, Huston 1994 says that in poor soils, plant diversity will be more than in rich soils. Similarly, If human interference and drought increases, the diversity will be at low levels. Biodiversity can also be defined as a richness of species and evenness of species in the area. For example, in a given area, if only one life form dominates, in number of remaining life forms, the diversity will be at low level. When the on the country rich diversity can be observed if more number of life forms are evenly represented in more numbers, while one only one life form in less numbers during succession. All life forms shows uniform growth, but by the time they reach in climax stage only. One or few forms dominated, resulting in decreasing of diversity. This can be noticed in any ecosystem, be it forest or soil ecosystem. So, dear friends, in introduction, the variation is the law of nature. So, variation is compulsory in species to species, or animal to animal, or genus to genus. So, dear friends, the variation is the law of nature. It's compulsory in the nature. There is no differentiation there is lot of differentiation in between the species to species. It occurs everywhere. It occurs everywhere in the nature and every moment. It may cause either rainy season, either winter season, either day to day, anywhere it can occur. The variation takes place at micro levels. The variation started from the basic level or micro level. At short space and small time period, it may occur. Short spaces or small time period also, but these become apparent only over a large space and a time gap. It will become apparent. The variation takes a small time or a small gap or a small moment, but it can appear in the nature to take so much of time to appear. Simply started, biodiversity is the variety of the life and its numerous process on Earth. The variation observed in all life forms. The variation observed in the all life forms like plants, animals, living things in different habitats. It may happen at grassland ecosystems, it may happen a water ecosystem, or it may happen so many habitats. It may, the process, it may call biodiversity. The variation started from the any habitat is called biodiversity. The variations observed in all life forms like plants and animals. You can observe, dear friends, you can observe any ecosystem, any plant or any species, any animal to species, so much of variation is possible. So the variation started in species is called biodiversity in different habitats, geographic areas, and environments. is biodiversity. The biodiversity occurs the so many factors involved into the habitats like geographic areas. Southern areas are Himalayas, Western Ghats, etc. The geographic nature also affect the species diversity and environments. It is the most important factor to affect the species to form the diversity or variation to species is called diversity. So, dear friends, the variation is started in the species to species or all life forms like plants or animals. The so many factors are affected to variation. One is a geographic area like southern Himalayas, western Ghats, etc. And environments like temperature, light, so many factors is called biodiversity. The biodiversity, the term first proposed by Naros and McManus in 1980, they coined this term to include with genetic diversity, the genetic diversity and ecological diversity. The genetic diversity is the most important one, then ecological diversity. The ecological diversity during during the topographic areas and environment factors are involved, but this is temporarily visible, which ecological diversity. But genetic diversity is the complete changeness of genetic structure of the plant or species or animal. But ecological diversity is the adaptations, some changes for temporary. But genetical diversity is the permanent changeness or permanent variation from the species to species. That's why the genetic diversity is standard more than the ecological diversity. So that's why the Narrows and McManus in 1918 they coined genetic diversity and ecological diversity also. The Mr. W.G. Rosen in 1985 used this term to include all variations at all levels as a biodiversity. So, dear friends, W.G. Rosen in 1985 used this term to include all variation at all levels as biodiversity. In ecological factor and ecological diversity or genetical diversity or topographic diversity or environmental factors affected diversity, those all variations at all the levels includes as a biodiversity. During 1983 is of the opinion that the variations and the number of plant species will increase if more than one environmental factor influence the plant growth. Yes, the variation occurs or variation caused due to affected by environmental factor more than one factor. Hus- Huston 1993 and 1994 says that in poor soils, plant diversity will be more than in rich soils. In poor soils, plant diversity will be more than the rich soils. Similarly, if human interference and drought increases, the diversity will be at low levels. Biodiversity can also be defined as a richness of species and evenness of species in a given area. Everywhere in any ecosystem, We define the research of species and evenness of species in a given area. For example, in a given area, if only one life form dominates in numbers over large number of remaining life forms. You can take any ecosystem or any field or any topographic place or any forest. Some species only they are dominated in number over large number of remaining life forms. It dominates the other species. It dominates the other species. The diversity will be at low level. When the diversity is low level, the some species only they can dominate a number to number over large. On the contrary, the rich diversity can be observed if more number of life forms are evenly represented in more numbers, while only one life forms in less number during the succession. All life forms show uniform growth, but by the time they reach climax stage only. So, the factor of succession or phenomena of succession is more interference or influence the richness of species in the ecosystem. So, dear friends, by the time of climax stage only we can define which species is rich or which species is recessive. So, when the climax stage of the succession only we can say X species is dominant or X species is recessive, but we can't say at seeing one time only. Though in succession phenomena, we can reach the succession or the ecosystem reach the at climax stage, then only we can say the some species are or some or few forms are dominant, which resulting or the resulting increase decrease the diversity. When the ecosystem or any habitat is reach the climax stage means it decrease the diversity. Why? Because the some species or few species are dominated, then other species can extended from the or exited from the related habitat or ecosystem. This can be noticed in any ecosystem, be it forest or soil ecosystem, where when the species diversity or species dominance is very high, that habitats they are increasing or that especially that species are um, dominated, then the resulting is the decreasing of diversity. Only few species or few plants or few animals can grow the ecosystem. There may be soil ecosystem, there may be a forest ecosystem. When the ecosystem is reached to the climax stage, then only we can find the which species are dominated, which species are recessive. Next, conventions on biodiversity. One is most important convention at the summit. The conventions of biodiversity. One is most important conventions that is at the summit. In Rio de Janeiro, the capital city of the Brazil, the first convention of biological diversity, more popularly known as Earth Summit, was held in 1992. In this convention, 1950, sorry, in this convention, 152 countries, included in India, participated. In this convention, the need to ensure relationships between environment and development on global partnership level was discussed. The Earth Summit is the most popular first convention in the world. It is held in 1992 at Rio de Janeiro, the capital city of Brazil. In this convention, almost 152 countries has participated, including India also participated. In this convention, the need to ensure relationships between environment and development on global partnership level was discussed. In this meet, all countries released or realized the need for a common responsibility and agreed to some points. One is protect the biological wealth of nation. See, one is protect the biological wealth of nations. So, dear friends, the first point is protect the biological wealth of nations. So, 152 countries they agreed to follow these rules, protect the biological wealth of nations. So, dear friends, when the biodiversity is protected from our nation or any country, so they can compulsory protect the biological wealth of nation. So compulsory, they can protect the biological things like plants or animals, any things. The second one, utilization of genetic diversity at optimum level. So utilization of genetic diversity at optimum level. So genetic based research or genetic based diversity is at optimum levels only. It is not encourageable to the nations the using of genetic material to produce the new life forms or new life things. So, dear friends, utilization of genetic material to produce any animal either or any plant or any species is optimum levels only. Don't encourage much and much. So the second point is utilization of genetic diversity at optimum levels only. The third point is protection of biodiversity at all levels. Please, dear friends, protect the biodiversity at all levels. Means the diversity which which is in your hands, either ecosystem level, either succession phenomena, either forest habitat, either water habitat, anything in your hands. Please protect the biodiversity at all levels. The fourth point is in in situ and ex situ preservation of genetic diversity. In situ and ex situ preservation of genetic diversity, either in situ techniques, either ex situ techniques, you can preserve the genetic diversity, the wild species diversity, either wild species genetic material. So please protect or please preserve. When you want to do any research on genetic based research, please, you can preserve the original genetic material of the species, either ex situ conditions, either in situ condition. You want to do a new research for the species, please preserve the wild one, either original one genetic diversity. The fifth point is giving legality and supervision of the decisions taken at the summit, giving legality and supervision of the decisions taken at the summit. So, in the summit, the 152 nations are taking some points which are legally and supervisionally rights, which they are discussed in the summit. They are discussed some points or some rules, some regulations, or they all are legally important. The sixth point is need for research and training in protection and conservation of biodiversity, which is most important point for the youth and young scientists. So need for research and training in the protection and conservation of biodiversity. Please, dear friends, please protect the biodiversity and learn the research or develop the research technology, and please the some universities to request to conduct the training programs for the biodiversity conservations. Next, in short, this agreement of 1992 focused on three aspects. In 1992, which they are agreed. In short, this agreement of 1992 focused on 3 points or three aspects. One is protecting biodiversity at all levels as excellent. So, dear viewers, please protect the biodiversity at any ecosystem or any habitat. Please protect which is any level. The second point is minimal use of biodiversity in developmental programs. So, minimal use of biodiversity in development programs. The third point is all nations should get due share of the product of biodiversity. The Earth Summit was followed by many more conventions on protection and preservation of biological diversity. In 1973, Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species has taken some important decisions and given legally valid directions to follow. So, dear friends, in 1992, the Earth Summit was done in Brazil city of Rio de Janeiro. But before, in 1973, the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species has taken some important decision and gave legally valid directions to follow this. This was accepted by more than 120 countries, including India. Similarly, in 1992, another act called Intellectual Property Rights, IPR 1992. So, similarly, in 1992, another act was called Intellectual Property Right has come into force, which is essentially meant to protect the intellectual property rights and provide the commercial and trade rights of the wealth of nations. A good example of this is protection provided to the property right of India on turmeric and its due share royalty. So, dear friend, the IPR, intellectual property, in 1992 gives so many rights to the virginal, virginal
Virginal copywriters or virginal nations. The essentially meant to protect the intellectual property rights and provide commercial and trade rights of the wealth of nations. Some species are belongs to some topographic areas only, some topographic nations only. So the topographic are the mm, virginal place which the species is born from the specific country. So a good example of the protection provided to the property right of India on turmeric. The turmeric is born, the curcuma longa, the scientific name of turmeric, which born or which is raised from the India only. So the protection provided to the property right of India, uh, including the IPR. So the turmeric is the belongs to Indian species. So in IPR 1992 was protected our priority right on turmeric, and it's due to share the royalty from the other nations. India also, according to its needs, enacted few laws like Environmental Protection Act 1986, Wildlife Protection Act 1992, the Forest Conservation Act 1990 to protect and preserve its own biodiversity. India has so much of biodiversity. That's why the India called the mega biodiversity country. So India also they want to protect the biodiversity. India has to India also according to its needs or it's protect the and conserve the biodiversity. For the sake of these things, the India also some acts some acts produced or some acts as taken for the conservation of biodiversity. One is like Environmental Protection Act in 1986 and Wildlife Protection Act 1992 and Forest Conservation Act 1990. Types of biodiversity. In the specific region, a large number of different organisms, like in different communities. In these communities, different genera and different species of a genus all live together, sharing their resources. The diversity is often referred to as community variation. The diversity at community level are three types. They are alpha diversity, beta diversity, and gamma diversity. In a specific region, the large number of different organisms live in different communities. Communities means like ecosystems. In ecosystem, in ecosystem, the specific region, the large number of different organisms live in different communities. In these communities, different genera and different species of the genus all live together, share the resources. Dear friends, the different genera or different species, they can share the resources in a community. The diversity is often referred to as community variation. The diversity at community level are three types. They are alpha diversity, beta diversity, and gamma diversity. So here, alpha diversity or local diversity. The diversity of organisms living in specified habitat or community and competing with each other for the same resources and influenced each other is referred as alpha diversity or local diversity. The diversity is represented in terms of number of species in a given area. Alpha diversity refers to richness of species in ecosystem. Alpha diversity increases with increase the number of individuals. In the climax communities, the alpha diversity decreases as one or two species present only dominate in numbers. Dear friends, the alpha diversity or local diversity is means in any ecosystem or any habitat, the initial stage of community or initial stage of habitat or initial stage of ecosystem is called alpha or local diversity. Means in this diversity, the organisms living in a specified habitat or community and competing with each other for the same resource. So, initial communities or initial habitats or initial ecosystems, the newly entered species are competing each other for the same resource. So, dear friends, and influence the each other is referred to as a alpha diversity or local diversity. In the diversity, in these alpha diversity, uh, alpha diversity occurred in the habitats or communities which may reach to climax stage. It may reach to climax stage, only one or two species are present which are dominant. The entire recessive species are extinct from the habitats or communities. So, dear friends, the diversity represented in the terms of number of species in a given area. The alpha diversity is referred to richness of the species in ecosystem. You take any ecosystem or any habitat or any community, the newly entered species or a newly arrived ecosystem or habitat is the alpha biodiversity. The alpha biodiversity is referred to the richness of species in ecosystem. So, dear friends, in the alpha biodiversity in the ecosystem or in a community or habitat, the alpha biodiversity is reached to the climax stage. That time only one or two species only present because of their dominant remaining remain all the recessive species remaining all the delicate species we can call or remaining all the species are extinct from the that specific community or the specific habitat. So, dear friends, the alpha biodiversity refers the richness of species. Which species is dominant? Which species is uh, very much share their that habitat, their resources. Which species is very much utilize the specific resources from the specific habitat. So when the climax, when the alpha diversity is reach the climax stage, that time the one or two species only they can reach in the that specific habitat. So second one, the beta diversity. Beta diversity. It refers to the degree to which changes occur in communities along with environmental changes gradient. When changes occurs at community level, the species compositions also changes. For example, beta diversity is high in species composition of mass community changes at different altitudes of a mountain slope. If the same species occupy the whole mountainside, it includes low diversity. The diversity is also called as a turnover diversity because species changes whenever habitat or altitude, moisture or community changes. Beta diversity is expressed by measuring simul- simultaneity index of different areas. So, dear viewers, it refers to the degree to which changes occur in communities along with the environmental changes and gradient. When changes occurs at community level, the species composition also changes. For example, the beta diversity is high in species composition of mass community changes at different altitudes for a mountain slope. If the same species occupy the whole mountainside, it includes a low diversity. The diversity is also called as a turnover diversity because the species changes whenever habitat, altitude, or moisture or community changes. The beta diversity expressed by measuring similarity index of different areas. So, dear friends, the beta diversity is a change mainly refers to changes of community or the species composition also changes when the habitat or a community is occurs to change or it's want to change which is not within the hand of the habitat or community within the affected by the environment factor. So the species composition of mass community changes at different altitudes of the mountain slope. So in the same species occupy the whole mountain side. So the beta diversity is expressed by measuring similarity index. The third one is gamma diversity. The gamma diversity is overall diversity within a large region, such as a state or country. It is defined as the rate which additional species are encouraged in a given habitat type in different areas or localities. The gamma diversity includes both alpha and beta diversity. That is, it is a diversity at a species level or community level or habitat level. The relationship between these different diversities can be expressed as a gamma is equal to alpha plus beta plus q. Here, the gamma is gamma diversity, the alpha is alpha diversity, is average of all alpha diversities. The beta is equal to is average of all beta diversities. The Q is the total number of habitats or communities. The gamma diversity refers to the entire state or entire country uh, diversity within a large region, like states or like countries, etc. So it is defined as the rate which additional species are encouraged in a given habitat type in different areas or localities. So, dear friends, the gamma diversity is referred as a both alpha and beta diversities. That is a diversity, it may occurs in species level, or it may in community level, or it may habitat level. But the relationship between these different diversities can be expressed as a gamma is equal to alpha plus beta plus q. So, dear friends, the gamma indicates the entire region, the specific region, not a mountain region or not a habitat region, not at all the specific region. So, dear friends, the gamma diversity is referred as a specific region like a state or country or area, either any locality you take in this specific region to identify the diversity, like alpha, like beta, or gamma diversity. You can observe the entire country or entire the state or entire specific area of the diversity is called gamma diversity. The gamma diversity is equal to alpha diversity plus beta diversity plus q. Q means the number of habitats or communities. So, dear friend, this is the biodiversity introduction and types of biodiversity. Will follow next. We are going to follow. We are going to discuss a next topic in biodiversity in tropics in next lecture. So, this is the biodiversity and the types of biodiversity. So, dear friends, this is the clear cut motion of the biodiversity. How we are going to protect, what is the species richness, how to increase the, no, sorry, how to conserve the biodiversity, what is the Earth Summit, important things and important points, and types of the biodiversity. And next lesson, we are going to organize one more video lecture for the biodiversity. Please follow my channel, uh, botany GDC, botany underscore at the rate of GDC.